Welcome back. Travis Stenick here, and we're in the middle of Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz, diving into chapter 6. And it's been quite an amazing journey so far. Just having read this book, this is day 7 because preface was day 1. Having read this book for basically a week now straight, it's starting to be ingrained in my psyche, the principles, the automatic feedback mechanism, the servo mechanism, or the success mechanism, where we get positive and negative feedback loops. I'm just having this conversation with my daughter just now and helping her out in learning the world for herself, that which a lot of us human beings can live an entire life and die in old age and never really grasp this concept of that you are who you believe you are. You say you are one thing, even though you want to be something else, you will act as that one thing. So I want to be successful. I don't say I want to be successful, but I am a failure because I'm going to have those self fulfilling prophecies in life. My success mechanism will tell me that I'm a failure by looking out for those things in life that prove evidence to me that I was right all along, even though I want to be successful. So this thing is starting to become ingrained in me. And I want to dive right in because it's an amazing and most impactful book of life's lessons, teaching us in a non secular book how we as humans act and function in this world that we live in. So let's dive right in, relax, and let your success mechanism work for you. Chapter 6. Stress has recently become a popular word in our language. We speak of it as this age of stress. Worry, anxiety, insomnia, stomach ulcers have become accepted as a necessary part of the world in which we live. Yet I'm convinced that it doesn't have to be that way. We could relieve ourselves of a vast load of care, anxiety, and worry if we could just recognize one simple truth that our Creator made ample provisions for us to live successfully in this or any other age by providing us with a built in creative mechanism. Our trouble is that we ignore the automatic creative mechanism and we try to do everything and solve all of our problems by conscious thought or forebrain thinking. The forebrain is a comparable to the operator of an electronic brain or any other type of servo mechanism. It's with the forebrain that we think I and feel our sense of identity. It's with the forebrain that we exercise imagination or set goals. We use the forebrain to gather information, make observations, and evaluate incoming sense data from judgments. But the forebrain can't create, it can't do the job to be done any more than the operator of an electronic brain can do the work. It's the job of the forebrain to pose problems and to identify them. But it's by the very nature it was never engineered to solve the problems. Don't be too careful. Yet that's precisely what modern man tries to do, solve all his problems by conscious thought. Jesus told us that a man cannot add 1 cubit to his stature by taking thought. Today, Dr. Weiner tells us that man cannot even perform such a simple operation as picking up a cigarette from a table by conscious thought or will. Because modern man doesn't depend almost entirely upon his forebrain, he becomes too careful, too anxious, and too fearful of results. And the advice of Jesus to take no thought for the morrow, or of St. Paul to be careful in nothing, is regarded as impractical nonsense. This is precisely the advice that William James, Dean of American Psychologists, gave us years ago. If we'd but listened to him in this little essay, The Gospel of Relaxation, he said that modern man was too tense, too concerned for results, too anxious. This was in 1899. And that there was a better and easier way. If we wish our trains of ideation and volition to be copious and varied and effective, those are a lot of fancy words, by the way. We must form the habit of freeing them from the inhibitive influence of reflection upon them, of egos- egoistic preoccupation about their results. Such a habit, like other habits, can be formed. Prudence and duty and self regard, emotions of ambitions and emotions of anxiety, have, of course, a needful part to play in our lives, but Confine them as far as possible to the occasions when you're making your general resolutions and deciding on your plans of campaign, and keep them out of the details. When once a decision is reached and execution is the order of the day, dismiss absolutely all responsibility and care about the outcome. Unclamp, in a word, your intellectual and practical machinery and let it run free, and the service it will do you will be twice as good. Whoa! Now, first of all, that paragraph quoted from 1899 doesn't make any sense in my language. I speak much dumber than that. Okay. But what was I talking about yesterday about completing the circuit, the positive and negative terminal, the seed of thought, the creation of the thing happens first in our mind and second in reality. All things are created twice. So the first thought, the seed of creation, happens on one side of the terminal. And then to be able to complete the circuit, we actually have to have the thing show up in our real life. Once those two things come together, the circuit's completed, the lights turned on, and the thing shows up. But oftentimes we get in between. We get in between the terminals of the battery circuit and we try to go like, how's this going to happen? Like I've got to somehow will my way into existence this thing that I've thought about and I want to create. What he's saying here in fancy 1899 English language is, dude, get the freak out of the way, turn your brain off, and let it happen automatically. The servo mechanism, the subconscious mind, has all these calculations and knows how to make things happen. Our super consciousness is going to tap into us and give us opportunities and coordinate things, you know, God's supernatural universe, whatever those circumstances that seem to be it's a coincidence will start to happen to fulfill the prophecy at which we believe has happened. Conceived thought, the first side of our terminal happened, created first in our thinking, and then second in our outer world when the reality came to be. The battery terminal closes, we got out of the way, the positive and negative came closer together. The battery completes the circuit, the light bulb goes on, and bam, all of a sudden, that dream car shows up. Why do I say dream car, guys? In 2018, I sold my then Toyota Supra, which is one in 75 ever built, ever. In 1993, the Renaissance Red hardtop twin turbo 6-speed transmission Toyota Supra, which I bought sight unseen from a man in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm living in Salt Lake City at the time. In 2004, when I bought my first home with my wife, I was 20 years old, and I saw a Supra on eBay for $8,000. Total scam. It was at the time likely like a $50,000 to $60,000 car. This is 21 years ago. And once I realized it was a scam, I didn't get scammed of any money, but my servo mechanism, my success mechanism was like honed in on getting a Supra. I couldn't let it go. I was in the process of purchasing our first home when we were 20 years old. And I was like, well, how the heck am I going to get a Supra? And I found a guy, speedforsale.com, Jeremy Blackwell, amazing man. I wish I could get in contact with him again today and just thank him for what an incredible businessman and amazing curator of one of the greatest vehicles I think that humans have ever made in the Toyota Supra, fourth generation, which was on the Fast and the Furious. Okay. If you ever need to do some research, go watch Fast and the Furious 1 and the hero car in that show. 2JZ, no shit. They're in the junkyard and they see this wrecked up Supra and they see that the engine is the most amazing engine ever built, the inline 6 twin turbo 2JZ GTE. And I gave it away, I sold it in 2018. I'm applying these principles in Psycho-Cybernetics right now. I'm showing you, this is me documenting this thing happening. And I bought the car in 2004 for 24,000 bucks. 18 years later, I'd pulled out everything, pulled out the entire turbos, basically half an engine. It couldn't run. The car itself wouldn't start. It was on jack stands. The guys who came over to look at it looked at it and said, how the heck did you get it up on these jack stands all by yourself? Willpower, baby. I imagined it and it came up. It came to be. Well, I had 1,000 horsepower turbo, a single turbo taking off the twin turbos They're already modified as much as they could be modified, and I was converting it to 1,000 horsepower. I had customized the entire interior and exterior. I had a plasti dip wrap on the outside. It was a beautiful, sparkly, color shifting blue. When I peeled it off and the beautiful Renaissance red paint was underneath, he gave me an extra $3,000 right then and there. He's like, "Oh, I thought I was gonna have to paint this thing." Well, guess what? The guy bought it from me without the car turning on for $30,000. 6 grand above and beyond which I paid 18 years prior, 14 years, excuse me. And here I am, owner of 14 years, this car, watching it drive away. The next couple of weeks, he restored it to stock factory, flipped it for 60K, doubled his money in 2018. In 2019, I can't remember if it was 19 or COVID 2020, I think it was 19. The fifth generation Supra came out. And nowadays, fast forward to 2025, well, it's 2024 when I'm doing my research. I'm driving down the highway. The month before I quit my job, a really good close friend of mine, Jared Valerio, you're out here. I hope if you hear this podcast, I love you, brother. He's quitting his job and going up to Micron in Boise, Idaho. And I'm driving from my work from home. I'm driving from Salt Lake down to Lehigh to his farewell lunch. And guess what I see on the highway? I see the exact color, Renaissance red, Toyota Supra, cruising down the highway. In the 21 years that I've been aware of the Toyota Supra, because I've wanted it with such a passion since I was a teenager, and I acquired that vehicle when I was 20 years old, I've only seen a handful of Toyota Supras. They're a very rare vehicle. And in that moment, my heart started to hurt, and I'm like, I want my Supra back. I want my Supra back. And what happened was I felt prompted to pull out my phone. Very dangerous, I know, while you're driving on the highway. But I pulled out my phone and I searched for Toyota Supras, and the very first result that caught my eye, I thought I wanted a Royal Sapphire Pearl 1997. It's like a kind of like a purplish blue color Toyota Supra. I thought that's the one that I would get next. Like I let go of the car in 2018 and I would be like, all right, I'm acquiring one in the future at some stage. It's going to be this exact ideal color. And I came across this audacious, bright orange Toyota Supra. I thought that was going to be my car, this purplish 97 Supra. But then I scrolled through, got home later, did some more research, couple hours on the internet, and I came back to the original first one that I saw. The the coincidence of life that's happening to me. And I'm like, actually I could mull on this for a minute and maybe start to like it. It's a little bold and not really my style, but kind of is my style when I think about it. And what's amazing is it's one out of three ever to be produced in the world body kits from Valeside, Japan. This amazing transformation of a vehicle doesn't even look like a Toyota Supra. Like if you didn't know, it was debadged. There's no Toyota symbols on it, emblems. There's no Supra logo. I'll be changing that. And the tail lights I recognized were the original 93 tail lights. One of the things that as a Supra owner of the earlier of the model, so it went from 93 to 98, and the 97, 98 taillights are more modern. Even though they're nearly 20 years old, they still look modern today. WTF. Talk about ingenious engineering. Well, I went back and I found out that this car just so happened to be located in Florida, Pompano Beach, Florida. And I just so happened to be flying into West Palm Beach, Florida, like a couple weeks later to go to the Millimonth Mastermind with my coach at the time, Mark Dama, has invited me out. And I'm like, dude, I'll be passing by or I could drive back down. Well, everything went crazy the day that I got on this airplane. Both of my flights were canceled. I almost didn't make it out to the event. And I was busting my butt to find a new airline to get me out to Florida so I didn't miss the entire Millimonth Mastermind. And they end up putting me in Miami Beach, which is further south than West Palm Beach. And Pompano Beach is between Miami and West Palm. Crazy. Had to take an Uber anyway. Might as well take me to the dealership. So I get in touch with this dealership. I'm like, dudes, I know you're not open on Saturday. I just got screwed with my flights and everything, but would you mind letting me take a look at this car? And of course, amazing dudes that they are. Yes, he went in and he opened it up for me. And the craziest thing ever, he opens up this like random car dealership that has a lot full of $1 million worth of cars, millions of dollars. Okay. Rolls Royce, Bentleys, Lamborghinis, um, like old classic American muscle cars, uh, every single exotic, Aston Martin, Ferrari, Porsche, like names of cars I don't even know rattling off my tongue, McLarens, like everything is here. 2 stories inside of a building. So there's basically 3 different dealerships. I'm like, holy crap. Talk about a kid in a candy store. I'm a motorhead. I have actually motor oil that runs through my veins, despite there being the electric car revolution that I'm on board with, by the way. But there's something about the exhaust, the sound of an amazing low vibration, low, just like kind of like not the high little like little like crotch rocket type lawnmower or not lawnmower. I'm thinking of weed whacker type sound. Honda Civics that roll around town with these little exhaust mufflers, and I always say like that's the loudest, slowest car I've ever seen because I had a very fast car and my car didn't need to be loud to be fast. It was just freaking fast. My Toyota Supra, when I first bought it in 2004, I raced against a bullet bike, a guy with his girlfriend on the back. Yes, it's a little heavier weighted. I beat a bullet bike in my Toyota Supra. The guy was so mad, he hooked a right at the rear at the light and he did a little like wheelie popping thing and he hooked a right really fast because he felt so stupid. His girlfriend almost fell off the back. I'll never forget that. That was one of the greatest moments as a racing dude in my life. And granted, it was late night, okay, super late night. No one was on the streets. I'm not advocating for street racing. This was 2004. I was dumb, young, and full of, mm, okay, it's a rhyme. It's not appropriate for this podcast. And gave away my car. Fast forward here now, it's for me realizing I'm here in this um, dealership, touching, feeling the most amazing vehicle I've ever seen. And I notice, well, it has the original taillights. So anyway, I go back home. The dealer calls me up with the guy who showed me the car. It wasn't the actual dealer that showed me the car. It's his friend that's worked for him, worked with him for 30 years. Turns out this vehicle is one of 3 vehicles in that whole entire building that's personally owned by the dealer. And he's selling only the Toyota Supra, and he's not selling his amazing Porsche and his amazing Bugatti. Those 2 cars are not for sale. But this one is, and it's mine. I'm like, holy crap, this is my dream car. There is everything absolutely perfect about it that I imagined. Now it's audacious, bright orange, just like the Fast and the Furious car color. But I'm like, isn't that kind of like cool though? It's kind of like I took my family to Florida for Christmas. We just went to Universal Studios and we went to the Fast and Furious ride. I didn't like that ride. Neither did my 2 kids, the older kids. And what I did like about it, however, was I said, "Check that out." They had the original orange Toyota Supra just chilling. It was real. And I told my kids, like, look at that. That's my car." Now, I get home, this dealer calls me up, and we talk about it, talk about the background and everything, and the price is audacious, guys. He should be charging. He says, "My friends think I'm ridiculous. I'm crazy for selling this car, and I should be selling it for $250,000." He would easily garner $250,000 from this car, but he's asking $130,000. It's just still crazy to me. I still haven't like evolved my mind of thinking of like, yeah, I'm going to spend 130 grand on a 30-year-old car. Okay? It's an exotic car. I'm not talking Ferrari, Lamborghini, those things. I'm talking like a Toyota. A Toyota. No, this is in the same class is Lamborghini, Ferrari, Aston Martin. Okay. Like this car has got over 1,200 horsepower. These two nitrous bottles in the back, I'm like, whoa, those are crazy. He's like, they're just for show. I'm like, thank God. So I'm not a nitrous guy. I'm a turbo guy. And he's like, they're plumbed to the the windshield washers. He's like, I wouldn't recommend hooking them up to the manifold. You'll blow the head. Yes, you will. With this much power, you don't need NOS. But hey, back in the 90s, that was on the original car. This is like so genius how it's been crafted. And it's tuned to be streetable at like 5, 6, 7, 800 max. You tune. So the fact is, it's the fastest car on the street that you can drive around on the street. It's not just a track only car, but it's a car that goes to the track and destroys everything in its place. But it's really a show car and it's a dream car. And so what I did is I talked to him about my desire for this car. And he's like, oh, yeah, it's like this much money. You can put 50% down. I'll even take less than 50% down because you're a cool guy. But, payments, it's like a 1-year loan thing. It's like 5,000% interest. I'm just kidding. But he's like, all right, here's the brass tax, excuse me. And I'm like, yeah, dude, like, cool. I didn't say once, like, now's not a good time, because now is not a good time for me to be spending 130 grand on a car when I'm building a business and I'm preparing to quit my job the next weekend. And so basically at this point, I'd already quit my job when I'm talking to this guy, because I'd come home from Pompano or West Palm. And the very next day, Monday, on November 11th, I quit my job and I had this conversation with a dealer, a few days later down the road. And I never once opened my mouth with that. At the end of this, he says, well, what do you do? So, well, I just got a little AI sales automation business helping companies streamline their sales process through AI. And he's like, what the heck? I need that too. And guess what else? A couple minutes later, he's like, you install that into my business and I'll trade you. I'll literally exchange your product and your service for my car, applying payments to the car, everything. Like, whoa, mine is now blown. So this is my car. So because I noticed those 93 taillights and I realized when it's my car, I have to have the exact same 97, 98 taillights like I had purchased and upgraded on my original 93 Supra. And back in 2014, so like 11 years ago, no, dude, it was in my first home in Murray before we moved into here in Holiday in 2011. And that was probably, dude, like 2008. I'm guessing maybe 2007, 2008. Okay. Probably like 2, 3 years, 4 years ish after I got this car. Daisy got me these taillights from her dad. He's an auto mechanic and he's got the connection through Lexus and Toyota, and I could buy parts at cost. And her dad bought these replacement parts. They were so rare that they were on like limited, almost not being made anymore inventory. They stopped producing and making a lot of Toyota Supra parts from the factory. But then, like, when I sold my car, like in 2018, um, this dude restored it to factory the next week or next month. He doubled his money by ripping apart, taking out all my custom leather interior, restoring the entire engine back to factory, restoring the dash all back to factory, restoring the D-lined HID headlights back to the factory crappy ones, and like doing all the stuff, unbundling what was unique to that car, to me, the best car I'd ever driven. He put it back to factory and a collector came and scooped it up for twice the money. I bet you that they're making these parts now. These are factory parts from Toyota. I bet you they're making these parts now, but these parts were so limited that in 2008, they were over $1,000 at cost from the dealership. My wife, she's the cutest, best person I've ever met. Wiring harnesses and bulbs, dude. Wiring harnesses and bulbs alone were over $250. Now I've got not just one side, but I have two sides. I have left and right 97, 98 taillights in my possession right here in this box. I've unpackaged them and I've got wiring harnesses and bulbs, both sides, brand new, and they were factory sealed. I just cut these babies open before I started this podcast. I've had them under my bed for about a month or two now. It's January 10th, and I went and saw that car on November 7th. And November 7th is, well, it was November 8th. It was Saturday morning. Is that November 8th? I'm just checking the calendar because I don't have a calendar open, and you're so smart and you're like listening to this podcast and able to like have November 7th was a Thursday, and I flew to Miami on Friday the 8th, Saturday the 9th. It was like 7:30 in the morning because my flights were both canceled and I was basically in an airport all night long. Um I was in the airport all day long from like 10 in the morning until 11:30 at night, and then I was riding airplane over to Miami and stayed in an airport until like 7:30, and then I took an Uber on my way up so that I could basically catch this guy opening his dealership. Like the salesman wasn't able to open it sooner, so I would have left Miami Airport when I arrived at like 5:30 in the morning so I could make uh my mastermind on time, but I couldn't. He's like, "I won't be there that early. You freaking crazy. I'll be there at 9." I'm like, or he said 10. I'm like, "Can you do 9?" He's like, like doing me a favor. Nice guy, amazing people. But I had basically flown in, and within a week, 3 days maybe. So if it's, you know, the end of November, I bought these things and I just cut them open, and they're $275, $250. Like, what? What? But it's not about the price, which is ridiculous. The guy who was turning my car and flipping it in 2018 with factory parts obviously triggered to the dealer, dude, we would make a lot of money if we just made these parts again. And now they're not super rare. I bet you that's how I was able to get my hands on an entire full set with harnesses and bulbs for less than $300 shipped to my front door from eBay. No, it's not that. It's that I had this creative ability to collapse time and space. And when I committed to leaving my job, I committed to getting my car back. The exact one that I always wanted and dreamed of. Well, this one is an exact replica, but badass with the veil side body kit, wide body that's 1 in 3 ever made. And they have the production tags on it that say last one ever made. If that even matters to you. Yes, it matters to me. He said, does it even matter to you? Dude, my 1 in 75 Renaissance Red hardtop tw- twin turbo 6-speed transmission, the Getrag German transmission in a Japanese badass motherfucking car, the 2JZ GTE twin turbo engine, but mine was wingless. So take that number 75 and scratch it down to 3. Yeah, 1 in 3 mattered to me in 2004. It matters to me in 2025 that this thing is bad as fuck and doesn't even look like a Supra. The front headlights are converted into 3 little dots instead of this beautiful, ginormous, like, what is the Ferrari? The Ferrari basically looks the same. One of the Ferraris have the same similar headlights as a Toyota Supra, the ones that I had, because I painted the interior of my headlight. I de-lined the chrome, painted it black, and had these crystal clear fronts on them. They weren't factory. They were badass. But guess what? Um, this creative homing missile seeking guidance system, the automatic success mechanism, showed up, and I could have actually proven to myself that, yeah, I'm a failure. I'm not meant to create. I'm not meant to live this life. I'm not deserving of a car like this. I could focus on all these negative thoughts like, now's not the right time to buy a car. I'm needing to replace my job income. I'm supposed to quit tomorrow, or I have quit my job. Like all these dumb little thoughts could have come and flooded my brain. And I would have proven to myself with self fulfilling prophecy, see, look, I told you so. And then I would have take the rudder from my boat that's going in the boat of life in the ocean, sea, wave of the infinite possibility, and that created a vacuum void in the wake behind it as it's headed in the direction of my desired intended target. The wake behind it's a void, it's a vacuum. And so everything in life is collapsing and filling up this vacuum because nature does not like things that are out of equilibrium. And all of a sudden, self fulfilling prophecies slam back on the rudder, slow down the boat and do a 180 turn or do a 270 turn or do a 910 turn and do a bunch of 360s for a while and then just randomly drive off while you're dizzy. Well, guess what? That's what happens if I decide to focus on that stuff. But I don't. The thing's already mine. I'm dreaming about it as it's already been purchased and mine. And it's not that car. I don't even care. Like I let go of the results. It's a Supra. It's happening in this calendar year. So I cleared out my garage. I cleared out the space. I've had that space in my workbench area jacked up with car parts and crap since I sold the Supra in 2018. Piece of my heart went when I left that thing. And most of you listening, or I don't know how many of you listening, if you, even myself, have just spoke out loud, even my own wife doesn't understand. It's like, it's just a hunk of scrap metal. I was like, I know it is. That's the hardest part about this. I don't get it. It's like when I was having infertility with my wife, we had 10 years of infertility and 10 treatments with eight of those 10 treatments failing. Well, if 8 out of 10 fail, how do you have 3 kids? 10 years of infertility, 3.5 for my first. I had to go get a surgery a year later after my second, and then we tried for another year. So there was almost the 7 years, just the first 2 kids. My wife had to get inseminations, these IUIs as they call them. And we had, at that time, 7 to get 2 kids, and I had a surgery, varicocelectomy, sliced me open, did some stuff. I woke up mid-operation and asked the doc stuff, and they're like, "Whoa, you should be asleep," and put me back under. And I never went under. Like, I was basically, like, awake, like, the whole time. I should have been asleep. It's crazy. And naturally, during COVID, my daughter was born, or my daughter prayed to God, let our family be the family with the next baby, because everyone around us was having babies. And my wife and I got pregnant when I thought she had COVID, because we got COVID in July. And the first people in Utah that our friends knew about that had COVID, there was no such vaccine back then. And I was like, dude, you got COVID again. Go to the doctor. And she was pregnant. She conceived naturally. And the wonderful Emmett, which is a firecracker times 10 of who I am, my personality is amazing with like this light auburnish tint to his brown hair. It's like the most, like, women pay money to get his hair color. He's a badass, and he was conceived naturally. And all of this is what I choose to focus on. I choose to believe that things can happen, like, doesn't look like we did it, but God did it. But I don't know. I don't get it. But these, like, the balloon in life, the red balloon, where there's a string that's called luck, when preparedness and opportunity meet. Well, I was waiting for the red balloon to show up when I decided, firmly committed to quit my job, that I would get my super back. It doesn't matter the cost, because I was wealthy enough to afford any cost. It was the time. When I committed and decided, the red balloon, or really in real life, the Renaissance red Toyota Supra, was driving down the highway as I was going back toward my job, celebrating one of my best friends who I'd not really seen in person for so many years now, since I've been working from home since COVID of 2020, literally celebrating his farewell of leaving my company. I'm farewelling already. I'm eating lunch with my colleagues, having farewelled, because I saw my Toyota Supra and I said, now's the time. I committed. I knew. I didn't put those things together until I was reading this episode, reading this book for this chapter. I didn't put those thoughts together until just this moment. But I realized I was calling it like just chance up until this moment. when I've been reading this book to you, I've been calling it a coincidence or like a premonition or like I just followed through on something. That's what I was telling myself. What I just realized is I said out loud when my car was being taken away, I'm like, in my head and out loud, I have said, it's all right. I'll be getting another one someday in the future when I can afford to have any one that I want and as many as I want. I thought I wanted a fleet. I just need this one perfect Toyota Supra. I found it. And if it's mine, it's mine. If it's not, it's not. I'll find another or I'll just chase down the guy who bought it and pay him double. But all I'm thinking of right now is I can now be it wasn't ever entered my mind as well that I had a choice not to get it. That's the other crazy part. I went through in this episode just describing to you a moment ago of like I could choose to focus on a self-fulfilling prophecy and turn my boat around and steer it in a different direction. And now the wake creates in its path that void is filled with self-fulfilling prophecies of see, I told you so. See, you weren't meant to be. See, you couldn't make your job income. See, you got to go back to work and be a loser and an employee. Not the employees are losers, but I am a loser if I go to become an employee, make thousands a month instead of hundreds of thousands and millions a month. Why would I do that? Like that's stupid. The amount of impact that I can make in the world for my family and other people of this world, and even just for myself, sucks by comparison. That's all money is. Money is just giving me the ability to do more cool stuff, make more of an impact. It's a utility to be creative, my creative ability. It gives me comfort enough to be creative enough to give my gifts back to the world. That's all money is for. I'm not even comfortable enough working thousands a month. My bills are tens of thousands a month. Like I got to pay back over a quarter of $1 million in debts just to get back to bottom zero. When I started my entrepreneurial endeavors in digital marketing, I was at $0 of debt. I went like 5 years, like completely debt free. I used to like ebb and flow up and down, go completely debt free with my wife and I, and then I just go like get a bunch of car loans or something stupid, and then pay all my cars off again and like be debt free and blah blah blah. And I like do this dumb thing, and then I went flatline for 5 years, and then boom, to be able to make millions a month, I spent 200 and something, almost $250,000 in my private education. Okay. Not quite that much because I paid a lot of stuff in cash. I burned through all these cashes that I was also making. You look at that minus 275, I think that's all he spent in the last 3 years. No, I spent a lot more than that. I just don't have debts to show it because I'm also paying in cashes. I'm like, dude, over $200,000 or so in my private education in less than, say, 2, 3 years. And I went to school in 2002, started and started again in 2012 to get bachelor and master's degrees at the University of Utah and paid less than 4 times that of which I just did in like less than 2 years or whatever. I'm just keep fluxing between 2 and 3 years, but it was less than my first degree. My bachelor's education took longer and cost only like shit, maybe like $4,000, $16,000. It was so small by comparison of what I've just invested in myself to be able to learn a knowledge and a skill set now instead of like dreaming about millionaires. And the first millionaire that I ever thought that I met was a Amway guy to now like having a billionaire texting my phone personally. And I'm having a conversation with him. And it was actually my bot. And then I tried to reach back out and I've talked to him in person. I've shook his hand and I've got to pick his brain. And he like sat there and lectured to like a handful, no more than 10 people in a room in a penthouse suite in West Palm, Florida. I'm like, dude, and every one of those people there are millionaires except me. I'm like, uh, what the? This is crazy. Well, when you surround yourself with the five closest people in your life and the books that you read, the last 5 years determines who you are in your future and who you're going to be around. Who you surround yourself with and the books you read are basically your destiny, your future. Like that's where you will be. That's who you are. You don't have to surround yourself in person. If you listen to me on a podcast like this or others like it, Alex Hormozy, you listen to content like that, those are the people you surround yourself with. If you go to lunch, John C. Maxwell says never eat alone. Never eat lunch alone. It means like whether if you can interview and eat lunch with somebody who's like successful and like pick their brain, that's what I was doing with this gentleman is during our lunch hour, I was picking his brain. Never eat alone also includes if you put in a podcast and plug in some earbuds and listen to something like this. Never eat alone. That's a principle that you're learning and gleaning from other people. You surround yourself with the 5 closest people, and the books you read, it will determine who you are. It's very factual. If you're not reading books, then listen to books. If you're not listening to books, then ingest good content rather than social media and news and friends that are lowering their energy vibrational state by talking about a bunch of crap that doesn't matter. It's meaningless. It doesn't make you feel good. If you're laughing from your belly, you're in a good place. Okay. If you're laughing from your belly, you're in a very good place. But honestly, like if you feel sick to your stomach, you're not. Listen to your body. It's a feedback system. And then all I'm doing is choosing to follow my success mechanism that was predetermined. I'm not going to choose the outcome path that I decided on this. I discovered while reading this chapter today, right on this episode here. This is not going to happen because it's already determined. I'm just documenting it well and thorough so that I'm going to live up to this and show you so. Because these things look like coincidence. I could not have planned it out this way. The miraculous universal chef has brought me the most incredible meal far above my imagination could have ever conceived. And I don't even want to know if he made substitutions or he made substitutions, she made substitutions. The universal chef could have done some crazy things in the back there and brought me the most amazing meal, and I'm enjoying the good food and I'm enjoying the service. Like it is literally, it was my job and design to put in the order to the universal waiter to say like, dude, I want the Toyota Supra when I quit my job. The best one that I can find, not afford, but find. Best one I can find. And I did find it. And I touched it. I felt it. I sat in it. And my dog crapped in the car yesterday because I took my daughter to junior high, came home. I don't normally do this where I like throw the dog in the car and like in between taking all 3 of my kids to school. She's either in the car in the beginning or at the very end when I'm taking her for a walk. And it's like, dude, I had her like in the middle and I forgot about her. And like a couple hours later, she crapped in there. I cleaned it out, whatever. It's all aired out, whatever. Day later, my wife's already said the smell's gone, but I could smell something. Guess what I smelled? I had a memory. It's my Supra. It smelled just like my old ass 30-year-old car. And like, dude, I can't tell you the waves of emotion that like the desire and the craving to get the thing back. I was 20 years old when I got my dream car. My ultimate dream car is a Ferrari and has always been. There are way cooler cars out there, guys. And like my stepdad's dream car, ultimate desire was a Porsche, and I got a Porsche like long time ago. I got the SUV when at the time when they were like, oh, it was so this is over 10 years ago. They're like, you got the car when it's like too cheap for the rich guy that he wants to buy and it's too expensive for the poor guy to afford. Like I was like making thousands of dollars a month in my engineering job and I bought a Porsche SUV used from the Porsche dealership and they were making fun of me essentially. But it was like a good enough car. It was like a $90,000 custom leather interior Porsche that I bought for like 20K. I'm like, or something. I can't even remember. Maybe it was 30K, but who gives a crap K? This is before prices of cars are absurd now. Back then, like cars were about like 10,000, 15,000. So if you're spending like twice as much or 3 times as much on a used car, it's like kind of stupid. But you did anyway. You get nicer cars because they're like obliterated from when they drive off the lot. I'm not a proponent in saying here's how to buy cars or what to pay on them. All I'm saying is I didn't give a crap on the price or where I was getting my car back. And when I was 20, I had the same determination. When I was scandaled and fooled, not by any money, but just by like my thoughts alone, I thought I could get an $8,000, $100,000 car. I'm like, I'm getting it. So I found Jeremy Blackwell on speedforsale.com and I bought my car sight unseen and I paid 1,000 to ship it across the country and I paid 24K plus $1,000 shipping fee. And I remember the day, the smells and the sight of seeing my car it looked like a junkyard, but it was like a transportation lot and it was all dirty from the windshield having a bunch of rain on it. and it was all smuggy and gross. And I just remember seeing that red Toyota Supra, and I can never unmatch that day. And the first time that I was in that car and the dash being so high and wide, and the driver's cockpit like a fighter jet's cockpit. Literally, there's this like dashboard that projects and comes out and faces the driver. Like, who gives a fuck if there's anyone over there or not? Because guess what these guys do and myself do, and this car has, is you take out the freaking passenger's airbag and you put something sick in there. Usually like your computer. This guy put a freaking iPad and has a badass stereo system in it. Dude, he's got the computer you hook up to a laptop when you're in the freaking garage, not the computer screen like live over. That's what the guys when I had my car were doing. Like, oh yeah, I've got my AEM computer right there so I can tune my air fuel gas ratio like on the fly, like when I'm ripping, the quarter mile sprints and like doing like street racing and stuff. I can tune it. Are you freaking kidding me? No. Go to the tune shop before you go to the racetrack. Go back to the tune shop and go back to living your day life in your car. Spend some money and don't be dumb. Put something sick like an iPad in your Supra. That's what this guy did. I can watch movies. I'm not going to watch movies. I'm not going to use an iPad. That's stupid. I would never turn the thing on, but it's way cooler than having a freaking AEM computer module where I'm tuning like the shit from my engine. Like, no, I want go fast parts. I don't want to know how the car starts and works. You kidding me? This is badass. This car is made badass perfectly. Sorry for that like 40-minute rant or tangent on my car, but it's the automatic success mechanism that I had one side of the battery terminal, which was my thought. I conceived the thing, it was created first in my mind. And then the second creation is when it comes into reality. And the battery terminal, the circuit completes, the lights go on, and the Supra shows up in my driveway that I cleared out in my garage and not in the third car L shaped garage I have. It used to sit in the top, in the back, and I never drove it. Nope, I'm going to daily drive it, and it's going to be in front of my daily driver or in back of my daily driver. I'm going to go in and out with my wife on the right. And she's getting a brand new car. I mentioned in the last episode. It's like, dude, that's pretty awesome. The Volvo EX90 has not even been made in production yet. And when they get them on the streets, we're going to be of the first people. That's cool. I don't really care. I always like kind of doing something a little like creative and unique when I like the Teslas. And I drove one for the first time in 2019. I took it for my birthday weekend up to Park City. They gave it to me without paying any money, just my license, and said that I had insurance, but didn't even prove it. And I got to rent out what would have been like a plaid at the time, Tesla, and I raced my cousin. He's got a Mustang all souped out to like 700, 800, 900 horsepower. It's absurd. And he's got his own YouTube channel as well. It's pretty awesome. And I'll tell you what, that time I fell in love with the car. It wasn't very popular. Now there's like dime a dozen. They're all over, and I like don't like them anymore. It's so weird. I will still take one. If you want to give me a free Tesla, go ahead. My phone number is just kidding. No, but I'll tell you that like being a unique subset of only having a few of these is nice to have, but it's this like thought conception that happened when I put the money down and never turned back and committed all in when I custom designed the car. And when the credit card key, like they said, this is your key. Welcome to your new key. It's a freaking credit card. It's not even a key anymore. Came with like a little leather holder and kind of like a key ring shaped thing. And I'm like, well, that's pretty cool. They're like, actually, no, this is your real key. So don't just throw it away. It's not just like we're like dangling a carrot on a stick. Your car is coming. Like, get ready for it. I could have turned back and ran away every single time when I'm like, oh, I had the business to pay for it. And I knew I would have the business to pay for it when I ordered it. And then I don't have the business to pay for it. And I'm like, oh shit, well, why would I still buy this car? And blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, dude, are you kidding me? You bought it for a tax write off. It's over 6,000 pounds. You get it for your reimbursement. Like it's almost a free car. Your business is paying for it. Like being a business owner affords you really great luxury lifestyle things. Like I get to spend money and pay and run paid ads for my clients and for myself. And holy crap, when I spend money on my American Express card, I'm getting a boatload of miles, at which I started flying first class for the first time in my life last year, and I will never, ever again within my realm of control and ability fly less than first class or not get Delta Sky Club because it's badass, dudes. What have I been missing my entire life? Getting treated like a king at the Delta Sky Club in every hotel or every airport that I can join and hop in over one of those, and I'm getting the Continental Club from United, I think it is, and like all these like accesses that are amazing only because I chose to do this thing and not back away and turn away and look down. I said, I will have the business that will be paying for it when it shows up. And guess what's crazy? It's been delayed. Like they my car's not here yet. It's January 10th. They're way behind the schedule because they're releasing their safest car in history. Volvo already has the most amazing record and track record, and for the past couple years, I've overheard secondhand that their quality and safety and track record and crap might have been like questionable, and they're like gaining back their reputation. And I'm happy for them to do that and postpone the timeline to do that because guess what it's also doing for me, allowing me to rebuild my business from scratch to hero, zero to hero, nothing to eight figures in 1 year. I'm showing you, documenting every step of the way, the journey, so that I can fill the gap that those billionaires and now Alex Hormozy potentially may have filled when they didn't document from zero. I have zero monthly recurring revenues. I have 19 customers acquired, and I've had cash collected basically days after I walked away from my job on November 11th, 2024. I got my first guy, a wonderful dude. I'm working with a coaching client that saw me walk out from my job. He paid me cash. I got transactions before everyone at work got their next paycheck. And I'm documenting the journey entirely and saying it's thoughts becoming things. I have hundreds of thousands of dollars per month in the next 30 to 90 days, like sitting in front of me. Next week, I'm expected to be super overloaded with jobs. I've been told from my partner, he's like, dude, I'm going to be sending you a whole bunch of realtors next week. Get ready, buckle up. That's not even my primary market that I'm serving, but all these verticals, I'm saying yes, 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 doing the unscalable, doing the thing that which is not scalable long term because I'm having capacity to document the entire way, massively explode my finances and show you how possible it is to make things from zero, having nothing, no organic social content following. I had a brand new Instagram account and basically a brand new YouTube channel, and I did not have a school community. I had nothing, and I quit my job and I start it and I do the thing after I quit my job. I start the thing. I started Instagram like the day before Thanksgiving, 2024. Daily posting, posting multiple times, once to twice per week in YouTube, and now it's daily because of these podcast episodes. I'm still going to be producing regular content outside of podcast. This podcast was designed for my coaching clients. My coaching client who's driving 12 hours per day, 7 days per week since 2017. You guys do those mathematics. I know, not like taking a few days off here and there. Badass. I don't think I could do that. And he needs something to listen to. And I'm really hoping that he's already given amazing feedback and it's already benefiting him before it happens in his real life. He's tapping in to the quantum, the infinite realm of possibility where there's multiple timelines in time and space and infinite possibility. And he's hearing the lessons and hearing the words on my podcast before he actually listens to them. And that's very freaking crazy because he's tapped in. His brain is unlocking. He's actually using super conscious to get downloads from the future. Super conscious, like your conscious mind, level 2 is up to the level 1. And you're like, oh my gosh, I'm getting messages from some different dimension. And he can start to hear the future and feel it because it's becoming him, because it's nothing new under the sun. Guys, we've always been here. We've always had the same natural creative ability. God is, was, and always will be. God is the quantum. God is the infinite. God is the particle and matter and time and space as well. But guess what, dudes? Like, we are creators with the ability to tap into these like different realms, dimensions, and get help from guides, from our higher self, from wherever, from not our conscious mind, but from some other conscious state of being. It's a super conscious state of being. And you're like, oh my gosh, like this is pretty sweet. Well, yes, it is pretty sweet. When you actually tap into that, everything changes and you're able to reframe and think differently. You're able to think differently. And when you think differently, a change of mind changes the world. And then now you can program your subconscious to actually carry out the activities and do the things and believe the things and say the things and pay votes to your self image that are contrary and not contradictory. And you will achieve the things. You will achieve the things. You change your mind, you'll achieve the things. The quantum realm collapses with the observer effect, slows down to the speed of light, comes into particle, and the things are produced out of thought. Let there be light first was thought, then created after spoken. Happens twice. It didn't explicitly say that in the ancient text that God thought the words first, but I know I think the words first, and I was created in his image, according to that text. So I'm using a mathematical proof. If A equals B and B equals C, then A equals C. Getcha? You think first. Therefore, you create second with your spoken word. Well, if I'm speaking something that's truth, my heart resonates with it, then I will actually take action towards that truth and I will commit to it because it's in congruence with my heart and brain are in coherence and things will manifest. If I'm speaking something contrary to my truth, I'm saying, I want to be successful, but I believe and I say that I am unsuccessful. I cannot be successful ever because I be unsuccessful. Act as if you are successful, then you be successful. Like that's how it is. Like your words will come out and be like, no longer being like, well, I want to be successful, but I am stupid. I want to be smart and a good person, but I'm a dummy. I'm a failure. I'm a sucker. No, you'll be saying, I act as a smart, successful person, and I am a successful, smart person. Like you start to believe it, and then all of a sudden, everyone around you sees you as such. You elevate your energy. Why is he dressing so nice? It's so weird. I started dressing up at my job, my workplace, when I went from working in the factory 24/7, 7 days a week. This factory is running, and I'd work 3 and 4 shifts a week at 12-hour shifts on the same day and night schedule, hopefully, is my wife. But when I went back to days, she was working nights, and that sucked. She's been nights straight for 17 years, and I would flip from days and nights every 4 months. And then I went to the first shift, Monday through Friday, carpet dwelling, and I'm like seen in the real world. And I don't wear a bunny suit anymore, a smock. I'm wearing like my clothes, and I have to wear long pants, and everyone's wearing like jeans and like dress downs, and I'm wearing like slacks or khaki pants and like button up shirts, like collared shirts, and not t-shirts and like shit. And everyone's like, oh, he dresses so nice. But I dressed that way because I felt better. I felt better when I dressed better. And all of a sudden, my subconscious mind, my psyche started to transform. So if you're having a hard time, like changing your mind and transforming your self image, buy some nice clothes. Go to Joss A. Bank, Joseph A. Bank. Joss A. Bank is like a discount men's suit store. You can get for like $100, 2 or 3 nice suits. Get a blazer jacket. Get like a button up white collar t-shirt that's super soft and supple and stretchy and comfortable. And you can get them at Nordstrom Racks or like, TJ Maxx or whatever like you have in your local city or town. You're like, dude, yeah, get some like nice button up white shirts and like a blazer jacket that's like kind of loose and soft and like cottony or whatever. It doesn't have to be a legit like blazer. Like start dressing to impressing yourself. Dress to impress yourself and you'll change your self-image slowly by slowly. And then I was doing that. And then all of a sudden I like started dressing down again, but I didn't care because my self-image has raised and changed. And now I like to wear fine Italian suits when I'm around people, all like dressed up nice and freaking Air Jordans is the most comfortable thing for me. I do like dressing in nice black shiny shoes or like a leather brown leather Italian shoe. I love that stuff, but like it's not comfortable. So if I'm going to be hanging out with friends or like at a, mastermind or conference or like, just doing my thing, I'm going to be hanging out with Jordans and like comfortable pants and a blazer coat or like something that's like, makes me feel better than when I don't have it on. And then like I might next day or something when I'm with homies, like I'm just in a t-shirt, I'm feeling good, but I have a self-image that I could be in my skivvies or I could be in a tuxedo and feel and look and act the same way. But it's taken me like 8 years to get that transformation. Very self-conscious my entire life. My entire life. I didn't think I was self-conscious, but of course I was. We all want to fit in. We're all self-conscious. Who do you look at first in a picture? You seek out yourself first, don't you? You self-conscious bastard, you. No, that's not anything. No condemnation. We all do it. It's a preservation mechanism. Our subconscious mind is keeping us from dying. We check out ourselves to make sure that we're okay. So, this whole entire like 40-minute rant has been about the creative ability within you and for you to understand that you have the power to control your thoughts. No one can ever take that from you. And you have the power and we're given the power to co-create anything in our existence. Like we're actually co-creators in the sense that we create first in our thoughts. The creator comes and brings all of this stuff into our life that's like, I didn't orchestrate that. There's no way I could put that together. And then we create yet again when that thing manifests in our lives. The circuit's completed and we choose that thing. The creator comes to our doorstep all the time. The infinite universe comes to us with whatever we ask it for, knocks on our door and says, hey, you asked for this. Do you want it? And you tell it no. Every single time you limit yourself. You tell the universe no. When you say, I want $1 million, but I pull out fat stacks of cash and I start kissing it. I love this. You think that I'm in love with money and something's sick and wrong with me. But when I bring my son out here and I kiss him, I go, I love this. You think nothing wrong. You're like, what a good father he is. The infinite universe comes around to your doorstep, knocks on the door and says, you asked to be a millionaire. Here's your money. And you say, nope, nope, nope. That's disgusting and disturbing. If you gave me a, cute little son unexpectedly during COVID and your wife conceives when you think she has COVID and your, miraculous conception, you've tried 3 times of IUI and failed. And you're like, well, we're not doing IUF. We're just going to give up. I guess we're just not meant to be. And I'm in my pastor's office in November saying, why did God put this in my heart if I wasn't meant to have a son or a daughter? Like I have 2 kids I'm super grateful for. I'm so blessed. And I can't even think otherwise. Like I feel like guilty almost that I like want a third or feel this like longing for a third person in my life. It feels terrible. I'm having this shout out loud in a one-on-one with my pastor. And I don't go to a pastor in this moment. So don't hear what I'm not saying. But in this moment, this man is hearing my heart and helping me through a hard time. My wife was pregnant at the time. I didn't even know it. She was pregnant. It's not about that. It's about the thoughts that became things first, conceived and co created this natural born child and conceived. And now the thing came into reality. So the thought was the seed planted, literally in my wife. And you guys know about the birds and the bees. I'm not going to talk about that. But the sperm of my thought planted in getting a Toyota Supra. And the gestation has been 6 years until I decided another thing that was contingent upon fulfilling that seed of thought, which was, hey, dude, I'll get any price, anywhere, anytime, another Supra and as many as I want. And it was contingent upon me not ever working a job or a day again for as long as I live. And when I decided that, the co-creator, the creator in this co-creation came and said, dude, take a look. Here's the exact Supra that you saw in that pickup lot in 2004. Looked the exact same. I didn't even notice if it had a wing or not, a spoiler or not, because mine was wingless. I wouldn't have even cared because I knew it wasn't the same car. And I actually did some investigating and scoped it out. I'm like, is it anyway? It's my real original car that's been manufactured and restored to factory. Because if it was, I'm getting that sucker back just for, to put it on a shelf. But no, dude, didn't matter. It was ready to be born. And my co creator took over and said, yes, I'm going to manifest it for the second time and go and make it come into my life. Just like I did in 2004 when I saw it on eBay and I'm like, I found a dude that was willing to sell me a car and I talked to him on the phone and I bought it sight unseen. Now I've sight seen, touched, and feeled and took picture and video, been in person, talked to the owner and smelled it and remembered the smell of my first car by smelling something in my wife's car yesterday. Triggered in me the same feeling and emotion of longing, of completion, of I'm getting it back. So you watch me and just will document this process. And thank you for listening. If you wanted to, again, fast forward out through all this, you can. If there were valuable nuggets, it is definitely tangential thinking. Like my mind spurs very fast and I go from topic to topic. One of my old mentors used to have a very similar way of talking and speaking. And he would say, it's like Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. It really is like Mr. Toad's Wild Ride in California Magic Kingdom, Disneyland. But guess what? Um, you're along for this ride. And your ride is awakening the soul and the creative fire within you and your ability to have whatever you think. It's always been there. I'm just helping you discover it and use it for your benefit. Let's dive right back in. Victory by surrender. Later in his famous Guilford lectures, James cited example after examples of persons who tried unsuccessfully for years to rid themselves of anxieties, worries, and inferiorities, guilt feelings by making conscious efforts, only to find that success finally came when they gave up the struggle consciously and stopped trying to solve their problems by conscious thought alone. Under these circumstances, said James, the way to success is vouched for by innumerable authentic personal narrations is by surrender. Just let go of the results. Passivity, not activity. Relaxation, not intentness, should be now the rule. Give up the feeling of responsibility and let go your hold, reign, or resign the care of your destiny to higher powers. Be genuinely indifferent as to what becomes of it all, if it is at all, but giving your private convulsive self a rest and finding that a greater self is there. The results, slow or sudden, great or small, or the combined optimism and expectancy, the regenerative phenomena which ensue on the abandonment of effort. Just let go of the shit and it will come to you. Remain firm facts of human nature. The secret of creative thinking and creative doing. Proof of the fact that we have been saying this to be true, it can be seen in the experience of writers, inventors, and other creative workers. Invariably, they tell us that creative ideas are not just consciously thought on the forebrain thinking, but automatically, spontaneously, and somewhat like a bolt of out of the blue when the conscious mind is let go of the problem and engaged in thinking of something else. When my wife and I weren't thinking about having a kid, we made one. These creative ideas don't come willy nilly without some preliminary conscious thought about the problem. All the evidence point to the conclusion that in order to receive an inspiration or a hunch, the person must first of all be intensely interested in solving a particular problem or securing a particular answer. He must think about it consciously, gather all the information that he can on the subject, consider all the possible courses of action, and above all, he must have a burning desire to solve this problem. But after he's defined the problem, he sees it in his imagination, the desired end result, secured all the information and facts that he can, then additional struggling, fretting, and worrying over it don't help but seem to hinder the solution. So once you set the ball into motion and you decided, I'm going to do this thing, then don't worry about it anymore. Let it go. You want a wife and a family of your dreams, or a husband and a family of your dreams, and you don't yet even have prospects? Set the ball into motion and get out of the way. The creative ability of us and the nature and the universe is going to bring the opportunity to you. You will match the energy and vibration of that thing out there. There's a person for every one of us who meets us where we're at in our stage in life. And if you can change your self-image fast and you want, a high standard partner, then yes, you will need to change that self-image to attract that partner. But if you're like, dude, I don't care how long it takes me and I want someone right now, someone's there for you right now, meeting you where you're at. My dream girl came to me when I was 18 years old. I didn't notice her. She was in my class for I don't even know however long. 300-person auditorium. There were maybe 15, 20 students filling up the first 2 or 3 rows. Me and my 2 friends sat at the top of the stadium, 20 rows up, and I was cracking jokes and zipping up my coat over my head and standing up and making a fool with my Russian professor saying like, "Please sit down, please, pay attention, please do not, stand up. I'm teaching about your Björk is gonna be due on Friday." Web work was like our homework that we would have to, like, do in calculus, and I took this class in high school and passed the test and retook it because I didn't know what the fuck I was doing, and my friend a year ahead of me, my buddy was like, "Dude, I gotta take this class. You've taken it before. You should take it with me." I'm like, "Yeah, why not?" So I'm fucking around. I don't need to know what he's teaching. No one understands what's going on anyway. Calculus 2 is freaking hard stuff, okay? And here's the dream girl, my babe, down with 5 other nerds, these decent looking girls, and the one girl had an attraction to me and was telling my wife, like, dude, like, look at that boy back there. Look at that boy. He's like so cute and whatever. My wife's like, dude, he's an idiot. Like, pay attention. Like, you're getting a lecture right now. Stop interrupting. And then she's like, well, let me borrow your makeup mirror. And she would like take it from her and like start looking at me and like doing stupid stuff like that. And she got mad. This is why I love my wife, because she was like a quiet, shy, timid chick, is how she defined her self-image. And I never saw her. And then the moment she's like, give me that, she's like, why don't you just call him down? She turns around and goes, hey, you. And I go, who is that, babe? And she goes, come down here. I'm like, oh my God, my dream girl. And I'm like, hey, what's your name? I had long, shaggy hair, stupid kid. She's like, Daisy. I'm like, oh, is that your real name? She's like, what? Of course it's my real name. I was born here, you idiot. But I just came out of high school with, a couple of guys, Danny and Braden, Danny Yip, and these guys were from Hong Kong and they had a Chinese name, legit, like, but they went by American names. I thought my wife had the same. She didn't have an accent. She's Chinese. But I was like, oh, dude. And little did I know, she went home that day and told her younger sister, look at this freaking stupid, shaggy haired idiot kid in my class today asked if Daisy was my real name. Har, har. That was my dream girl. I knew then, like, I matched her energy and vibration where she was at. She saw the best version in me, at which I've been striving for 22 years now to like demonstrate, prove to her, prove to myself, like basically rise up to that image of me that she saw in me at 18 years old. And I'm 41 now. And I was like, dude. Oh, so by the way, let me correct. She saw it 19 years old. I chased her down for 3 months and she did not give me the time of day. That day moment, you think it was love at first sight, was one sided love at first sight, guys. It took me 3 months to become her math tutor and hang out with her in the Marriott library at night, studying for exams and all this crap, and me teaching on a chalkboard like I'm freaking, uh, what is it? Matt Damon's movie, teaching like on a chalkboard. Um, that's going to drive me wild if I can't think of the name of this movie. And, I'm going to let it go, by the way, and demonstrate what's in this book. It'll just come to me. And, I just let go of the fact that she didn't like me and I chased her down and all of a sudden she came to me. And when I was 2019, she had this image in my mind, in her mind, that she wasn't even aware of, but I know that she saw in me the best version of me. And this long drawn out story about how I met my match, I never wanted a girlfriend. I never wanted, like, I got my heart broken, I guess. The friend, my best friend that I told her I loved you, and she it freaked her out. And then she eventually like became my friend again and was talking about boyfriends, and dude, it killed me. I was like, yeah, I can't handle this. And then kind of stopped talking to her junior year and back to senior year again, from sophomore to senior year. I'm like, asked her out at a dance. She became my friend again. And I basically told her, I'm like, I still love you, dude. And then that whole time I was like, I don't want anyone. I didn't want a girlfriend. I was like heartbroken or something stupid. I'm really glad I didn't, because I might have been a lot more promiscuous than I was, like, hardly, um, had I didn't have that experience. But I'm here to tell you, not my life experience, but your experience. You have an energetic match and that's someone you want right away, then someone will show up. If you want to have the girl of your dreams and have the life of your dreams and it's ready to go, they'll show up, and anywhere in between. That's just an example of attracting to you in your life some kind of romantic relationship. It doesn't have to be like that. Literally, It can be anything that you want. So, this text, I keep getting interrupted because it's blowing me away line by line. And I want to make sure that I add some color and thought and some inspiration to what we're reading because it's useful because sometimes it's written in a language and it's like a little bit hard to understand, but it's good. And I'm going to buckle down and I'm just going to read and not stop and talk. Best of my ability. These creative ideas, they don't come willy-nilly without some preliminary conscious thought about the problem. All the evidence points to the conclusion that in order to receive an inspiration or a hunch, the person must first of all be intensely interested in solving a particular problem or securing a particular answer. He must think about it consciously, gather all the information that he can on the subject, consider all the possible courses of action, and above all, he must have a burning desire to solve the problem. But after he has defined the problem, sees in his imagination the desired end result, secured all the information and facts that he can, then additional struggling, fretting, and worrying over it don't help, but they seem to hinder the solution. Ferrer, the famous French scientist, said that practically all his good ideas came to him when not actively engaged in work on a problem, and most of the discoveries of his contemporaries were made when they were away from their workbench, so to speak. So it was also well known that Thomas Edison was stymied by a problem and he would just lie down and take a short nap. Charles Darwin, telling how an intuitional flash came to him suddenly after months of conscious thinking and failed to give him an answer and the ideas that he needed for the origin of species. Okay, his Darwinian evolution theory. He wrote, "I can remember the very spot in the road, whilst in my carriage, when to my joy the solution occurred to me." Lennox Riley Lohr, former president of the National Broadcasting Company, once wrote an article telling how ideas which had helped him in business came to him. Ideas, I find, they most readily come when you're doing something that keeps the mind alert without putting too much strain on it. Shaving, driving a car, sawing a plank, fishing or hunting. For instance, anytime I was engaging with some friend or stimulating conversation, some of my best ideas came from me. They came from information I just picked up casually and entirely and unrelated to my work. C.G. Suits, the chief of research of General Electric, he said that nearly all the discoveries in research laboratories it came as hunches during a period of relaxation, following a period of intensive thinking and fact gathering. Bertrand Russell, he said, I found, for example, if I have to write upon some rather difficult topic, the best plan is to think about it in very great intensity, the greatest intensity of which I'm capable for a few hours a day, at the end of that time and give orders, so to speak, to that the work is to proceed underground. After some months, I return consciously to the topic and find that the work's been done. But before I discovered this technique, I used to spend the intervening months worrying because I was making no progress. I arrived at the solution nonetheless, and sooner for this worry, for the intervening months were wasted, whereas I can devote them to other pursuits. What he's saying is once a ball was in motion, he just forgot about the results and he lived his life and he went about his days until the solution came just in a dream or in the middle of his sleep or, when he's on the carriage or talking with his friend. But he said if he didn't, once he set the ball in motion, if he started worrying about it the entire time, he would have wasted those months in panic and worry until the opportunity showed up. You're a creative worker. The mistake we make is assuming that this process of unconscious cerebration unconscious cerebration. I don't know that word very well. I should look it up. I think it's about thinking. Okay, this conscious thinking is reserved for writers, inventors, and creative workers. We're all creative workers, whether we're housewives working in a kitchen, school teachers, students, salesmen, or businessmen. And we've got all the same success mechanism within us. It will work in solving personal problems, running a business, or selling goods, just as it will work in writing a story or inventing. Bertrand Russell recommended that the same method he used in his writing be employed by his readers in solving their mundane personal problems. Dr. J.B. Ryan of Duke University said that he's inclined to think that we call genius, this word, this label, it's actually a process. Genius, a process, blowing my mind away right now. A natural way in which the human mind works to solve any problem, but that we mistakenly apply the term genius only when the process is used to write a book or paint a picture. Hmm. A secret of natural behavior and skill. The success mechanism within you can work the same way to produce creative doing as it does to produce creative ideas. Skill in any performance, whether it be in sports and playing the piano in conversation or selling merchandise, it consists not in painfully and consciously thinking about each action as it's performed, but in relaxing and letting go of the job doing itself through you, automatically to you. Creative performance is spontaneous, it's natural, as opposed to self-conscious and studied. I remember when I was first learning to meet people in public and let them know I was doing business and helping them maybe see a different opportunity to explore ditching the rat race and, getting financial freedom. I was so confused and I was tripping up in my words and thinking about my next thoughts and my scripts and all the things I should be saying. When it became the scales of the musical notes that I would play on my guitar, and I became the arpeggios became spirit and soul and a so low, and I just let my voice sing like I would on a guitar string, I wouldn't think about it anymore, and it'd become natural and automatic, and it would just flow from my mouth, and I would prospect and just get people's numbers and then go home and call them up, and of course, they remembered me. 2 weeks later, 2 years later, it didn't matter. Now, granted, I was doing the bait and switch routine, which is terrible way to put your name and face out there. When you're not willing to be friends with somebody, but only willing to transact business with them, and then telling them when they don't transact with you anymore, they're not anymore a relationship. Now, that's no good. That's no bueno. Telling someone to beam them up to Mars and say next is not really nice when someone thinks that you made a friendship in a store. You should be friends with people first and always. You want to actually help people by demonstrating that you actually help them first. Well, help them first by being their friend without wanting anything back. Actually, give them friendly advice and let them come to you and want to buy from you rather than you transacting them. Now, the secret of natural behavior and skill, success mechanism within you works in the same way to produce creative doing as it does to produce creative ideas. Skill in any performance, whether it be in sports and playing the piano in conversation or in selling merchandise, well, it consists not in painfully and consciously thinking out each action as it's performed, but in relaxing and letting the job do itself through you. Creative performance is spontaneous, it's natural, as opposed to self conscious and studied. The most skilled pianist in the world, they could never play a simple composition if he just tried to consciously think out just which finger he should strike which key while he was playing. No, he's given conscious thought to this matter previously while he was learning. Yeah, he screwed up a bunch and he practiced like I did out making phone calls, my first sales calls, my first prospectings. I practiced and practiced until it became perfect and perfectly executed because I did a play huddle play with a coach and said, hey, here's how it went down, refine it, go out and run it again. And guess what? It became automatic. He was given conscious thought to this matter previously while learning, and he practiced until his actions became automatic and habit like. He was able to become a skilled performer only when he reached the point where he would cease to consciously control and have any effort and turn the matter of playing over to the unconscious habit mechanism, which is part of the success mechanism. Don't jam your creative machinery. Conscious effort inhibits and jams the automatic creative mechanism. The reason why people are self-conscious and awkward in social situations is simply because they're too consciously concerned or anxious about the right to doing the right thing. They're painfully conscious of every move that they make. Every action is thought out. Every word spoken, it's calculated for its effect. We speak of such persons as inhibited, and rightly so. But it would be more true if we were to say that the person is not inhibited, but that the person has inhibited his own creative mechanism. Because you are not a inhibited person. You are capable of fluent conversation with humans. That's how you're created and designed. You're just inhibiting your own creative mechanism when you're not doing it. If these people could let go, stop trying, not care, and give no thought to the matter of this behavior, they could act creatively, spontaneously, and just be themselves. Now, here's 5 rules for freeing your creative machinery. Listen to these and repeat these as you need. Rule number one, don't worry about before your place is bet, but after. Do your worrying, excuse me, not don't worry, but do your worrying before your place is bet, not after the wheel starts turning. One last time. Rule number one, do your worrying before your place is bet, not after the wheel starts turning.
I'm indebted to a business executive whose weakness was roulette. For the above expression, which worked like magic in helping him overcome worry, at the same time, it would function more creatively and successfully. I happen to quote him. I gave him this advice of William James, what he mentioned earlier. It was to the effect that motions of anxiety have their place in planning and deciding upon a course of action. So when you're thinking, you're strategizing, you're coming up with alternative solutions, thinking about what to invest in your time and money, you can worry, you can have anxiety. It's good for you. He says, when once a decision is reached and execution is the order of the day, however, once you get started and the ball starts rolling, dismiss absolutely all responsibility and care about the outcome. Start with the outcome in mind, let go of the results, and expect it to happen and be grateful that it's already happened and it will come into be. Unclamp, in a word, your intellectual and practical machinery and let it run free. Several weeks later, he burst into my office as enthusiastic over his discovery as a schoolboy was when he discovered his first love. You know, it hit me all of a sudden, he said, during a visit to Las Vegas. I've been trying it and it works. What hit you and what works? I asked. You know that advice, William James. You know, it didn't make too much of an impression when you told me, but I was playing roulette and it came back to me. I noticed any number of people who appeared not to worry at all before placing their bets. You know, apparently, the odds meant nothing to them. You know, they were just lackadaisical and haphazard. But once the wheels started turning, they froze up and began to worry whether their number would come up or not. Oh my God, how silly, I thought. You know, if they'd only wanted to worry or be concerned or figure odds, the time to do this was before the decision was made, not to place a bet. There's nothing you can do. You can't control the results are going to come no matter what. There's something that you can do about it then when you're thinking about it. You could figure out the best odds possible, decide not to take a risk at all, but after the bets are placed and the wheel starts turning, you might as well relax and enjoy it. Thinking about it's not going to do one bit of good, but it's wasted energy. Then I got to thinking, you know, I myself have been doing the exact same thing in my business and my personal life. I often made decisions or embarked upon courses of action without even adequate preparation, without considering all the risks involved, all the best possible alternative. After I set the wheels in motion, so to speak, man, I continually worried about how it was going to come out. You know, whether I'd done the right thing, I made a decision right then and there in the future. You know, I was going to do everything, all of my worrying, all my forebrain thinking before a decision was made. And after that thinking, after I'm making that decision, I set the wheels in motion. I just dismiss absolutely all care or responsibility about the outcome. You know, believe it or not, it works. I not only feel better, I sleep better, I work better, my business is running much smoother. And I also discovered the same principle works in 100 different little personal ways. For example, I used to worry and fume about having to go to the dentist or any other number of unpleasant tasks. Then I said to myself, this is silly. You know, the unpleasantness involved before you make the decision to go, sure. But if the unpleasantness is all that important to cause so much concern and not worth the worry involved, just simply decide not to go to the dentist at all. But if the decision in that trip is a worthwhile, a little bit unpleasantness, and a definitive decision is made to go, then forget about it, man. Consider the risk before the wheel starts turning. I used to worry the night before I made a speech at a board meeting. I said to myself, I'm either going to make a speech or not. If I'm either going to make it and there's no need in considering not making it or trying to mentally run away from it. I've discovered that much nervousness and anxiety it's caused by mentally trying to escape or run away from something that you've decided to go through with physically. If the decision is made to go through with this physically, the decision is made to go through with it. And not to run away physically, but while mentally keeping, considering, or hoping for escape. I used to detest social gatherings and go along with just to please my wife for the business reasons or whatever. I went, but mentally I resisted it. I was usually pretty grumpy and uncommunicative. But then I decided if the decision was to go along physically, I might as well go along mentally. I dismissed all thought of resistance. Last night, I not only went to what I formerly would have called a stupid social gathering, but I was surprised to find myself thoroughly enjoying it. Rule number two, form the habit of consciously responding to the present moment. Consciously practicing the habit of taking no anxious thought for tomorrow by giving all your attention to the present moment. Your creative mechanism, it can't function or work tomorrow. It can only function in the present today. Make long range plans for tomorrow, but don't try to live in tomorrow or in the past. Creative living means responding and reacting to the environment spontaneously. Your creative mechanism, it can respond appropriately and successfully to present environment or the present environment, or only if you've got your full attention upon present environment and you give it information concerning what's happening right here, right now. Plan all you want for the future, prepare for it, but don't worry about how you'll react tomorrow or even 5 minutes from now. Your creative mechanism will react appropriately in the now if you pay attention to what's happening now. It'll do the same tomorrow. It can't react successfully to what may happen, but to what is happening. Live in daylight compartments. Dr. William Osler said that simple habit, which could be formed like any other habit, was the sole secret of his happiness and success in life. Live life in daytight compartments, he advised his students. Look neither forward nor backward beyond a 24-hour cycle and live today as best that you can. By living today, well, you do the most within your power to make tomorrow better. If you've not read this excellent little essay, A Way of Life, in which he describes the advantages of this habit, I urge you to do so. That's William Osler, A Way of Life, Harper and Brothers, New York. William James, commenting upon his same philosophy as a cardinal principle, both psychology and religion for curing worry, said, of St. Catherine of Genoa, it said that she took cognizance of things only as they presented to her in succession, moment by moment. To her holy soul, the divine moment was the present moment. And when the present moment was estimated in itself and its relations, and when the duty that was involved in it was accomplished, it was permitted to pass away as if it's never been, to give way to the faces and duties of the moment which came after. Alcoholics Anonymous, they use the same principle when they say, don't try to stop drinking forever. Just merely say, I'm not going to drink today. Living in the present moment will keep you sober for the rest of your life. Stop, look, and listen. Practice becoming more consciously aware of your present environment. What sights, sounds, odors are present in your environment right now that you are not conscious of? Consciously practice looking and listening, becoming alert to the feel of the objects. How long since you've really felt the pavement beneath your feet as you walk? The American Indian and the early pioneers, they had to be alert of the sights and sounds and feels in their environment in order to survive. So does modern man, but not for a different reason. Not because of physical dangers, but because of the dangers of nervous disorders, which come from confused thinking, from failure to live creatively and spontaneously and to respond appropriately to the environment. This becoming more aware of what's happening now and attempting to respond only to what's happening now has almost magical results in reliving the jitters. The next time you feel yourself tensing up, becoming jittery and nervous, pull yourself up short and say, what is there here and now that I should respond to? That I can do something about. A great deal of nervousness is caused from unwittingly trying to do something that can't be done here or now. You're geared for action or for doing which can't take place. Keep constantly in mind the job of your creative mechanism. It's only to respond appropriately to present environment, here and now. Many times, we don't stop and think about this. We continue to react automatically to some past environment. We don't react to the present moment in the present situation, but to some similar event out of the past. In short, we don't react to reality, but to a fiction of reality. Full recognition of this and realization of what you're doing can frequently bring about an amazingly quick cure. Don't fight strawmen out of the past. For example, a patient of mine became jittery and anxious in business meetings, theaters, church, or in any formal gathering. Groups of people, they were the common denominator. Without realizing it, he was attempting to react to some environment out of his past where groups of people were a significant factor. He'd remembered, when he was a child in elementary school, he'd wet his pants, and a cruel teacher called him up in front of the class and humiliated him. He reacted with feelings of humiliation and shame. Now, the factor in the situation, groups of people, was reacted to as if it were just an entirely past situation. When he was able to see that he was acting as if he were a 10-year-old schoolboy, as if every gathering was an elementary school class, as if every group leader was a cruel school teacher, his anxiety just disappeared. Other typical examples are the woman who responds to every man that she meets as if he were some individual man out of her past. The man who reacts to every person in authority as if he were some individual authority out of his past. Rule number 3, try to do only one thing at a time. Another cause of confusion and the resulting feelings of nervousness, hurry, and anxiety is the absurd habit of ADD, of trying to do too many things all at one time. The student studies and watches TV simultaneously. The businessman, instead of concentrating upon and only trying to do one letter that he's presently dictating, is thinking back of all of his mind of the things that he should be accomplishing today, perhaps this week, perhaps this year, perhaps this decade, and unconsciously trying mentally to accomplish them all at once. The habit is particularly insidious because it's seldom recognized for what it is. When we feel jittery or worried or anxious and thinking of the great amount of work that lies before us, the jittery feelings aren't caused by the work, but by our mental attitude of which is I ought to be able to do all of this all at once. We become nervous because we're trying to do the impossible and thereby making futility and frustration inevitable. The truth is, we can only do one thing at a time. Realizing this, by the way, it's not multitasking, it's serial tasking really, really fast. Your brain can process synapses quickly, and you can't do two things at once. You do one thing for a minute, and then another thing for a minute, then another thing for a minute, another thing for a minute, and call it multitasking. It's serial tasking in series, not parallel, not multi. That's electrical circuits for you. Google it. The truth is, we can only do one thing at a time. Realizing this, fully convincing ourselves of this simple and obvious truth, enables us to mentally stop trying to do the things that lie next and to concentrate all of our awareness and all of our responsiveness on this one thing that we're doing now. When we work with this attitude, we're relaxed. We're free from the feelings of anxiety and hurry and rushness, and we are able to concentrate and think as our best. The lesson of the hourglass. Dr. James Gordon Gilkey preached a sermon in the 1944 called Gaining Emotional Poise, which he reprinted in Reader's Digest and became a classic almost overnight. He'd found through many years of counseling that one of the main causes of breakdown, worry, and all sorts of other personal problems was this bad mental habit of feeling that you shouldn't be doing many things now. Looking at the hourglass on his desk, he had an inspiration. Just as only one grain of sand could pass through the hourglass, so could we only do one thing at a time, and it's not a job, but the way that we insist upon thinking of the job that causes the trouble. Most of us, we feel hurried and harried, says Dr. Gilkey, because we form a false mental picture of our duties, obligations, and responsibilities. There seems to be a dozen different things pressing in upon us at any given moment, a dozen different things to do, a dozen different problems to solve, a dozen different strains to endure. No matter how hurried or harried our existence may be, said Dr. Gilkey, this mental picture is entirely false. Even on the busiest day, the crowdest hours come to us one moment at a time. No matter how many problems, tasks, or strains we face, they always come to us in single file, which is the only way that they can come. To get a true mental picture, he suggested visualizing an hourglass with the many grains of sand dropping one by one your problems. This mental picture will bring emotional poise, just as the false mental picture will bring emotional unrest. Label it for what it is. Your anxiety is a false mental picture. That's it. You can only do one by one thing at a time. Another similar mental device, which I found very helpful, is to tell my patients, hey, your success mechanism can help you do any job, perform any task, or solve any problem. Think of yourself as, feeding jobs and problems to your success mechanism as a scientist feeds a problem to an electronic brain. The hopper to your success mechanism, it can only handle one job at a time. Just as an electronic brain can't give the right answer if three different problems are mixed up and fed in at the same time, well, neither can your own success mechanism. Ease off on the pressure, damn it. Stop trying to cram into the machinery more than one job at a time. Rule number 4, sleep on it. If you've been wrestling with a problem all day without making any apparent progress, try dismissing it from your mind. Put it off, make a decision until you've had a chance to sleep on it. Remember, your creative mechanism, it works best when there's not too much interference from your conscious I. In sleep, the creative mechanism has an ideal opportunity to work independently of conscious interference. If you previously started the wheels and got them turning, remember the fairy story about the shoemaker and the elves? Well, the shoemaker found that if you cut the leather out and laid out the patterns before retiring, little elves came and actually put the shoes together for him while sleeping. Many creative workers have used a very similar technique. Mrs. Thomas A. Edison said that each evening her husband would go over in his mind the things that he hoped to accomplish the next day. Sometimes he would make a list of the jobs that he wanted to do and reported those jobs which he'd hoped to solve. Sir Walter Scott is reported to have said to himself, whenever his ideas wouldn't gel, never mind, I shall have it at 7 o'clock in the morning. V. Bector have said, It happened several times when I concentrated in the evening on a subject in which I put into a poetic shape, that in the morning, I'd only have to take my pen out and the words just flowed as if they were spontaneously, and I had only to polish them up later. Edison's well known cat naps, there were far more respites than just feeling tired. Joseph Rossman and the psychology of intervention, he says, when stumped by something, he would just stretch out in his Menlo workshop, half dozing, get an idea from his dream mind to help him around the difficulty. J.B. Priestley dreamed 3 essays, complete in every detail: The Berkshire Beast, The Strange Outfitter, and The Dream. Archbishop Temple of Canterbury, he says, all decisive thinking goes on behind the scenes. I seldom know what it takes place. Much of it is certainly during my sleep. Henry Ward Beecher, he once preached every day for 18 months. His method, he kept a number of ideas hatching each night before retiring. He'd select an incubating idea, stir it up, and by thinking intensely about it, the next morning it would have fitted itself together for a perfect sermon. A sermon a day for 18 months straight. I've been doing a podcast a day for 7 days straight. So we will see um, how far we get into this journey. I'm saying 7 days. I'm actually, yeah, we're 7 days in. Same concept. Ruminate on it and let it go. Kekule's discovery of the secret of the benzene molecule during sleep, Otto Loewy's Nobel Prize winning discovery that active chemicals are involved in the action of nerves, and Robert Louis Stevenson's brownies, which is said, give him all this plot ideas while he's sleeping. They're all well known, but less well known is the fact that many businessmen also use the same technique. For example, Henry Cobb started his business in the early 1930s with only a $10 bill. He now operates a multi-million dollar mail order fruit business in the North Miami, Florida region. He keeps a notebook by his bedside. He jots down creative ideas immediately upon awakening. Vic Pocker, he arrived in his early country from Hungary with no money and unable to speak English. He got a job as a welder, went to school at night to learn English, saved his money. His savings were wiped out in the Depression, but in 1932, he started a small welding shop of his own, which he called Steel Fabricators. Today, the small business has grown into a profitable $1 million firm. I've discovered you just have to make your own breaks, he says. Sometimes in dreams, I get ideas for licking problems. I wake up all excited. Many is the time I've gotten out of bed at 2 a.m. and gone down to the shop and see if an idea would just work. As I said, Nikolai Tesla had all of his ideas work the first time he built them. Rule number 5, relax while you work. Practice exercise. In chapter 4, you learn how to induce physical and mental relaxation while resting. Continue with the daily practice and relaxation, and you'll become more and more proficient. In the meantime, you can induce something of that relaxed feeling and the relaxed attitude while you're going about your daily activities. If you form the habit of mentally remembering the nice relaxed feeling that you were when you were induced, stop occasionally during the day. This takes only a moment. Just remember in detail the sensations of relaxation. Just remember how your arms felt, how your legs felt, how your back felt, how your neck felt. Remember how your face felt. Sometimes forming a mental picture of yourself just lying in bed or sitting relaxed and limp in an easy chair. It helps to recall those relaxed sensations. Now, mentally, repeating to yourself several times, I feel more and more relaxed. I feel more and more relaxed. It also helps. Practice this, remembering faithfully several times each day. Put a reminder on your smartphone or smartwatch multiple times for the day with some beautiful soft plain music. I feel more and more relaxed. That's all you say in the alarm. I have an iPhone. I can set alarms and I can edit the text. So when the alarm goes off, I can make it daily for a certain time every day. I can put text that says, I feel more and more relaxed. For by relaxing and maintaining a relaxed attitude, you remove these excessive states of concern, tension, and anxiety. They interfere with you, the most efficient operation of your creative mechanism. In time, your relaxed attitude, it will become a habit and you'll no longer need to consciously practice it. And those are the 5 rules of chapter 6. And our homework is points to remember, filling in the case history or example. It's just reflection, okay? I want you to reflect. We're doing the homework every single day. I'm doing this experiment. We're going for it. It's a thought experimental trial to see if we get any tangible results or evidence that our outer world is matching anything at all with our inner world. And it's about reflection. This is a long episode. because I tend to rant sometimes and get passionate about my life and examples, and I'm feeling the examples being manifested here, and that's my bad. But I hope it's your good in that you're benefiting from this and reflecting from things that I've said, things that I've read, and things that I've bled out of my body and experience, and you bled out of your body and your experience, and say, where in your life, dude, think about it. Like, match your life up to these life examples and stories and scenarios and see how they resonate with you, if it's fact or fiction. And to determine if it's fact or fiction, take this experiment with me. The homework assignment is to reflect, and comment below, and join me in my school community at the Corporate Escape Artists. And we'll be able to jam out on this even further. Until next time.